We've all had the debate, probably over dinner with friends. Is love at first sight actually real? Or is it just something we see in the movies? Well, today we're going to tackle that question, but with a twist that might just change how you think about love itself. So let's just put it out there. Is it real? Can you actually fall in love, like truly in love, with someone the moment you see them? I mean, it's this incredibly romantic idea that's been around forever, right? But at the same time, the cynical part of us, the practical part, often just writes it off as a simple crush or maybe just wishful thinking. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? This is where clinical psychologist Dr. Michael Lukens comes in. He argues that the whole debate of real or not real totally misses the point. He says there's something much, much deeper happening inside our own brains. And here it is. This is the idea that just flips everything on its head. Dr. Lukens says, forget love at first sight for a second. What about love before first sight? His point is that love isn't something that's just magically created in an instant. Instead, it's a potential that's already living inside you, just waiting for the right person to come along and activate it. Think about it like this. An expectant mother loves her child with everything she has, long before she's ever seen them. Or think about people who fall in love as pen pals, connecting on this incredibly deep level just through words. In those cases, the love is there, totally independent of sight. The capacity for that deep, profound care is already hardwired into us, just sitting there, in the queue, waiting to be triggered. Now, to really get this, we have to understand the two very different and often competing systems that are running the show in our brains when we feel attraction. You can think of it as a battle between our most primal instincts and our most evolved desire for connection. And this chart breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got what Dr. Lukens calls the lizard brain. This is our primitive reptilian brain. It's all about lust, ego, impulse. Its main goal is, well, getting laid. But on the other side, you have the limbic system. This is our emotional core. It's driven by love, by care, and by a deep need for connection. Its guiding principle is totally different. Do no harm. So the lizard brain is completely self-serving. It's driven by what Dr. Lukens bluntly calls horniness and ego. It sees an attractive person and thinks arm candy or social points. It's about winning a prize to show off. And crucially, this part of our brain really doesn't care all that much about the other person's feelings. It's all about getting what it wants. But the limbic system, that's a whole different story. This is where real connection comes from. When this system lights up, you see the other person as precious. You have this powerful, almost overwhelming desire to connect with them and to protect them. It's not about what you can get. It's about putting their happiness first. It's selfless. So this deep, protective feeling that comes from the limbic system, it's not just some fuzzy emotion. Dr. Lukens actually gives it a very specific name that gets right to the heart of what true, genuine love really is. He calls it committed benevolent interest, or CBI for short. And this is the absolute core of his whole theory. CBI is an innate drive, a built-in motivation to be unselfishly dedicated to someone's well-being. And notice there are two parts to that. You're dedicated to caring about them, valuing them for who they are, and caring for them, actively wanting to protect them and see them thrive. This, right here, is the love that he says is already waiting in the queue. And by the way, all of these ideas are laid out in detail in Dr. Lukens' book, The Physics of Emotioning. This is actually the first of 3 volumes where he really dives deep into this entire emotional architecture that drives our relationships. Okay, so that's the theory. But how does this actually look in the real world? Well, Dr. Lukens shares a really honest story from his own life as a young man that shows these two systems in action. He came up with his own little system for the women he was attracted to. He had Tier 2, which he called the appealing, and then the much more rare Tier 1, which he called the precious. And these two tiers line up perfectly with the two brain systems we just talked about. So Tier 2, the appealing, was all lizard brain. These were women he found attractive, sure, and maybe wanted to get to know. But he knew, deep down, that the connection wasn't coming from that protective, selfless place. His own ego and desires were still front and center. And this quote says it all. For this tier, it was really about the thrill of the chase, about feeding the drive, about the competition and one-upping other guys. It was more about winning than it was about genuinely connecting with the person. But then there was Tier 1. And this was something else entirely. These were the special ones. When he met someone who fell into this category, it wasn't just physical attraction. His limbic system kicked into high gear, and that deep sense of care and protection, that committed, benevolent interest, just flooded in. This is so powerful. He's saying, yes, the sexual attraction was there, but the limbic system created an override. The protective instinct was stronger. His first thought wasn't, how can I get with her? It was, I cannot do anything to harm this person. I can't soil her. The priority completely shifted from himself to her well-being. Okay, so let's circle all the way back to where we started. With this new framework of a lizard brain and a limbic system, what actually is love at first sight? Well, here's the final verdict. Lust at first sight is absolutely real, and it's pretty common. That's a straight-up lizard brain activation. But true love at first sight, that profound lightning bolt feeling, that's when both systems fire at the same time. It's the rare moment when you feel intense physical attraction and that immediate, powerful, protective instinct all at once. And you can see here the frequency is way different. Lust at first sight can happen anytime, anywhere. But that genuine dual system love at first sight, that's a much rarer experience. And that's exactly why it feels so incredibly profound when it does happen. Dr. Lukens calls it a drug effect. It's this rush that makes the world seem brighter, makes you want to whistle a tune. The moment feels supercharged, full of meaning and possibility. It's because your most primal self and your most evolved self are suddenly perfectly aligned, pointing at the exact same person. So why does any of this matter? Well, because this isn't just some cool psychology lesson. This framework gives us a map to our own emotional world. It gives us the language to understand feelings we've all had, but maybe couldn't quite put our finger on. So just take a second to think about your own life. Can you hear the difference between the voice of your lizard brain and the pull of your limbic system? Think about past attractions. Was it more about the ego boost, or was there also that quiet, powerful urge to just make sure that person was happy and safe? It's pretty eye-opening when you start to look at it this way. And that leaves us with this one last big idea. If Dr. Lukens is right, if that capacity for deep, selfless love, for committed, benevolent interest, is always inside us, just waiting for the right person to unlock it, what does that change about how we date, how we build relationships? Are we out there looking for someone to give us love, or are we really looking for the person who finally triggers the love that we already have? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.